Well, that right there was certainly not what I was expecting this episode to be, but I loved it all. This is the way. Guys, before we hop into this review and breakdown, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. If you are new to this channel and you like this video, that would greatly be appreciated, and share it as well so we can get more people in here to discuss this week's episode. So he is back. The Mandalorian is back, and he's back in full force with literally his own episode in the book of Boba Fett. Now, don't get me wrong, you guys, I did love this episode. I think this is by far in the top 2 best episodes of the show so far. They're up there with episode 2, but I have to admit, it felt a little weird knowing that this guy got his own episode in another person's show and we didn't even see the main character show up. But as we kept going through this episode, I honest to God really didn't care all that much. Not to say that I disliked Boba Fett, but I was just so enamored and taken aback by everything that was happening in this episode. And to be clear, there are some things that I was a little unclear about and had nitpicks with, but overall, I still loved this week's episode. So we quite literally start the episode with Mando himself, Din Djarin, as he is currently out getting a bounty in this meatpacking plant, and this scene did not get me. If this scene did not get me any more excited for Mandalorian Season 3, then I don't know what more it could have done. The exchange between him and his bounty goes a little weird, and we get an awesome action scene where he just slices these guys up, and by the way, are the same species of alien as one of the aliens that we saw in the last episode from the dinner scene at the very end. And of course, he still has the Darksaber, which he uses to kill them in violent, gruesome fashion. This might have been one of the most violent scenes we've ever seen in Star Wars. The next scene, now to be clear, I don't know where this is, and I'm sure a lot of people probably don't know where this is, but clearly there was some inspiration taken from Halo, because we literally get transported to a Halo ring looking structure where Mando goes to collect his money from the bounty. And while on that same Halo ring looking structure, we find out that the same creed of Mandalorians from the Mandalorian show have found a new home here. And as they say in the episode, you'll see in an image on screen that shows the last 2 remaining of that specific creed that you will remember seeing in the Mandalorian show from the first season. The blacksmith, and then the big one who we thought had issues with Mando. He gives her his Beskar spear to turn into something for Grogu, who he mentioned by name as a gift. They never show what it is, but I can only assume it's probably a piece of armor for when they meet again. They eventually get back into a back and forth about the Darksaber and what it means, and this then turns into a training scene, which then turns into a fight and a duel for the right of the Darksaber between Mando and the big guy, who is named Paz Vizsla. That name is significant because his ancestors were the ones who built the Darksaber, so he probably wants it back. They fight one another, and of course Mando does win, but then the blacksmith conjures to ask if he has removed his helmet, and in front of everybody, and Mando actually straight up tells her the truth instead of lying, which I'll be honest with you, I could have sworn maybe he could have gotten away with lying to them, but maybe there's something I'm missing. He admits the truth and is sent away from them, which I'm not gonna lie, it's going to be very weird if we don't see these 2 characters again. He is able to find a ride-off commercial transport ship, that the same one in fact that we saw carrying the Pikes in episode 3 of the Book of Boba Fett. And of course, where else is he going other than Tatooine, because we had to connect that back in. And look who else decides to show up. Peli Motto. If you don't remember who this is, it's the mechanic from the Mandalorian show who helps Mando with his ship. And I won't lie to you, I was a little worried when we saw this character return because I'm not a particular fan of this character myself. I think the actor, who is a famous comedian, I guess does an okay job with playing it, but I'm just not a particular fan of the character because she does play off a lot with comedy, and a lot of it does fall flat. And shock to no one, it does fall a little flat here in this episode. I didn't find myself laughing a lot at her comedy. She apparently messaged him because she found a new ship for him now that the Razor Crest is no longer around. And making another cameo in the show is, in ship form, is an N1 Starfighter. Yes, the same Starfighter that the Naboo Guard uses on Naboo. We obviously famously saw the ship be used in episode 1, The Phantom Menace, as a way to stop the droids and the Trade Federation. She just happens to get her hands on one of all things, and she offers it to him as a new ship. And and what follows is a very long and dragged out montage of him and her getting the ship together for him. Yes, I do admit this is one of my minor issues with the episode, is that this scene did feel a little bit too dragged out. But once he gets it up in the air, I actually thought it was really cool that he was able to take it around for a ride through Beggar's Canyon, which again is another little note to the Phantom Menace. At one point, he does take it up into space and is confronted by two X-Wing pilots, one piloted by a pilot that we've already seen before and another one who was new and I didn't recognize the face of. He is able to get away from them and landed back at Mos Eisley, to which then at that point, there were only 5 minutes left in the episode and I was really hoping it would just end off with him being recruited, and thankfully it did by the great Fennec Shand. She shows up in Boba Fett's stead to offer him the job of being muscle for him. Mando says it's on the house and that he'd like to pay a visit to a little friend first. Who that friend is? I have no idea, and it seems like we'll have to find out next week. This week's episode was definitely up there with the two best of the show so far, and granted, I know it didn't feature Boba Fett in it, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to run with that in saying that that's what makes him so uninteresting, but I completely disagree. Even if I felt like it was weird seeing Mando get his own episode in another person's show, it was just good to see this character show up again, because at the end of the day, everybody loves him so much, and I know there will be people out there who don't like this episode because of the fact that it didn't feature the main character of the show. And, I totally understand that criticism. But if there was one thing that I can firmly speak to right now, is that I have the utmost respect for Bryce Dallas Howard, since she was the one who directed this episode. Just like this being one of my two favorites, I think this was also one of the two best directed episodes of the entire show so far, maybe even the best directed one. I am firmly in the belief that this woman should be able to direct her own movie now and maybe direct more episodes of television for Star Wars, because this one was just amazing. Give her more to do, Lucasfilm. She did everything right in my book, personally. Now, the last thing that I'll mention that to this day is going to confuse me and a lot of other people out there is, what exactly is Mando doing since what happened in The Mandalorian Season 2? If you remember, it ended off with Grogu being taken away by Luke and him being stuck in a situation to where he now holds the Darksaber. The question to many people's minds is, why would Bo-Katan just let Mando run off with the Darksaber if she was just trying her whole life to get it back to her? I have a feeling that we may find out when in Mandalorian Season 3, when that comes around. But that will do it for me, guys, for this review and breakdown. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. If you are new to the channel, share this video. As always, I am very excited to see where the show ends up in the next coming weeks, so I will see you all in the next one.